I was 17 when my parents bought a new house. They gave my room to my sister's boyfriend. My dad tossed my clothes into trash bags and said, "Time to grow the hell up. We're done babysitting a useless mouth to feed." My brother laughed. My mom looked me straight in the face and said, "He's more of a son than you ever were. At least he earns his keep." I just stared at them and said calmly, "I won't forget this, and one day, neither will you." 5 years later, I made a move they never saw coming. Now they're begging, "Please come home." Okay, so I'm just going to say I'm not writing this for sympathy or some fake therapy arc or whatever. I just need to get this out because NGL, I still think about it more than I should. If this sounds messy, it's because it is. My family never did anything the easy way. So yeah. Anyway, this all started when I was 17 and my parents announced out of nowhere we were moving. Not like a let's sit down and talk thing. Just my dad came into the kitchen and said we're closing on a new place. End of story. I remember my mom was already on her phone texting like she was planning a vacation, and my brother Randall was making that face he always does when he thinks he's in on something. I should have known something was weird because nobody asked what I thought, just told me to start packing my crap. We'd been living in this old place forever, and I kinda liked it, even if it was falling apart. I had my own room, barely big enough for a bed and my old Xbox, but whatever. And yeah, I get that parents don't owe you a palace or whatever, but this felt off from the jump. My sister Bonnie was older, always the favorite, and lately she'd been bringing her boyfriend Rodney around all the time. Rodney is the kind of guy who acts like he's part of the family from day one, but it's all fake nice, always helping mom with groceries or whatever, just so she'd talk about how respectful. He called my dad sir and laughed at all his dumb jokes. I never did that, I guess. I've always been the quiet one, which my parents somehow read as lazy or ungrateful. So moving day comes, and for whatever reason, I'm last to get my stuff over. My parents kept telling me to hurry up, that I was holding everyone back, but honestly, nobody was waiting on me. I get to the new house. It's honestly not even nice, just bigger and more beige, if that makes sense. And as soon as I walk in, I see my stuff in trash bags in the hallway. Not boxes, not even just tossed in my old laundry basket, just straight up trash bags. Randall's sitting on the stairs grinning, like he just saw a meme. He can't wait to send his group chat. I'm like, what the hell, right? I start looking around for my room and I can't find it. Every door is closed except for one, and I open it and there's Rodney, already setting up his monitor on my desk. He doesn't even look up, just says I should knock next time. I'm not even mad at him at that point, I'm just confused. I go back out and ask my dad, like, where do I sleep? He shrugs and says, I'm 17, time to grow the hell up. He's done babysitting a useless mouth to feed. I'm not even exaggerating. He actually said useless mouth to feed. Like I'm a stray cat or something. Mom's right there. Doesn't even flinch. Just tells me Rodney pays rent now, which is more than I ever did. She says maybe I'll learn something from him about being a real man. Bonnie's pretending not to hear, but she's smirking, and I just want to throw something at the wall. And then Randall, because he can't help himself, starts making these little digs about how I'll be sleeping in the garage and should be grateful they didn't leave me at the old house. I tell him to shut up, and he pushes me, not like a full-on fight, but enough to make the trash bags fall over. My dad tells me not to start drama, like I'm the one making a scene. I try to stand my ground. I tell them I'm not leaving. This is my room. I've earned it as much as anyone else. My dad laughs and asks, doing what exactly? Playing games and eating their food? My mom's looking at me like she's waiting for me to apologize or something. I look at her and ask her if she's serious, and she just says, Rodney's more of a son than I ever was. At least he earns his keep. I swear I just stood there holding this trash bag with my old hoodie sticking out of it, and I felt like I was in the wrong house, like I'd walked into someone else's family by accident. I'm not proud of this, but I lost it. I dropped the bag and started yelling, which is not me, but whatever. I said if they wanted me gone so bad they'd get their wish, but not to come looking for me when things went sideways. Randall rolled his eyes and said, don't let the door hit you. And my dad laughed again, which pissed me off more. I grabbed my stuff and tried to get past Bonnie, but she blocked the door and said I was being dramatic, that nobody else had a problem with you. I shoved past her and she slapped my arm hard. I just kept walking. I went back to the garage and tried to get my bike, but Randall had locked it up with his own lock. I didn't even bother asking. I just grabbed what I could carry, some clothes, my old phone charger, my headphones, and walked out. My dad yelled after me not to come back unless I was ready to be an adult. I remember standing outside not really knowing where to go. My group chat was mostly Randall's friends anyway, and I sure as hell wasn't calling Bonnie. I texted this guy I used to know from track, asked if he had a couch. All he said was, sure, as long as I didn't make it weird. That was it. Nobody came after me, nobody asked if I was okay. I walked to his place, which was like 40 minutes away, carrying trash bags. I passed by a couple from school and they stared, but didn't say anything. I just kept going. I couldn't even get mad at them. Nobody ever knows what to say. So I crashed there for the night, not even sleeping, just scrolling Reddit and trying to convince myself it wasn't that bad. But then my phone buzzes and it's Bonnie, sending me a pic of Rodney in my old room, giving a thumbs up. She says, "Hope you're learning to grow up." I didn't reply. I guess the worst part isn't that they did it. It's that they didn't even pretend to care. I always knew my parents liked my siblings better, but I never thought they'd just replace me. I told them I wouldn't forget, and I meant it. Not in a sad way, just, I don't know. It's like something snapped. I wasn't going to let it go, not ever. Anyway, that's how it started. Not sure what you're supposed to do when your own family kicks you out for being extra. But yeah, I guess this is where it gets interesting because I wasn't about to just disappear. Next time I see them, they're not even going to recognize who they pushed out. If anyone's still reading, you ever have your own family just straight up pick someone else over you? Like not even in a, oh, we have favorites way, but in a, we'd rather keep this random dude around than our own kid way? Just curious. I don't know if it's as weird as it feels. Anyway, if you want to know what happened next, let me know, because it gets a lot messier from here. Update 1. So yeah, picking up from where I left off, walking out of my parents' new house with my whole life in trash bags and nowhere to go. That hit different. I honestly thought maybe one of them would text or call after I left, like, hey, maybe that was too much, but nah, nothing. Not even Randall trying to get in a last word. I slept on a couch that wasn't even long enough for me to stretch out, at this dude's place who I barely knew anymore, and I just lay there doom scrolling, replaying everything. Not gonna lie, I was mad, but I was also kinda blank, like I'd watched my own life on mute. So the next day I go out to grab some crappy breakfast from the gas station, and my phone's blowing up. Not from anyone in my family, but from Bonnie's group chat that she's apparently added me back to just to send more pics of Rodney moving the rest of his stuff into my old room. Everyone's hyping him up, calling him the sun upgrade, and posting cringe memes about leveling up your family. Bonnie just sends a screenshot of my old Spotify login with the caption, "Guess you won't be needing this," and then changes the password. I didn't even bother responding, just deleted the app. What actually got me, though, was that my brother starts listing some of my stuff on Facebook Marketplace. Not even subtle. My old Nintendo, a pair of shoes, even my busted headphones. My name is still on the boxes in the pics. I send him a text asking what the hell, and he just replies with a thumbs up. I call him and he picks up, but I just hear him laughing with someone in the background and then he hangs up. I try to call my mom and it goes straight to voicemail, so I leave this long message, but a few hours later I see she's blocked my number. My dad doesn't even bother, so I'm just stuck. I go back to the house that night thinking, maybe I can at least grab the rest of my stuff, but the garage is locked and the side yard is full of Rodney's friends hanging around, smoking something that's definitely not legal. I don't want to fight everyone, so I just walk past. But one of them says, "Hey, look who's back, the prodigal son." I keep my head down and keep going, but Bonnie comes out and blocks the door. She asks if I'm here to apologize or just looking for pity. I tell her, I just want my things, and she shrugs, says I should have thought about that before I disrespected the family. I try to push past her and she pushes me back harder than before. Rodney comes out and just stands there, arms crossed, and I realize I'm not getting anywhere, so I leave. I slam the gate behind me, so I'm on my own. I bounce between two couches for a while, just enough to keep from sleeping outside, but it's rough. I get some random cash gigs here and there, but nothing steady. I get this sense my family's hoping I'll just give up and disappear so they can act like I never existed. It's not even about money at this point, it's about control. My dad always said, if you don't contribute, you don't belong. He used to say it as a joke when I was a kid, but I guess he meant it. After like 2 weeks, my mom finally unblocks me and sends this text that says, "Hope you're figuring out real life now." She follows up with, "Honestly, Rodney and Bonnie help out more in a week than you did in years." I just leave her on read. I start to realize the reason they treat me the way they do is because I never did what they wanted. I didn't play sports like Randall or suck up to them like Rodney, and I definitely didn't make my mom look good on Facebook the way Bonnie did. They didn't want a kid. They wanted a side character who wouldn't make waves. So yeah, I get why they did what they did. I just wasn't going to let them get away with it. Things start to get messier when I'm trying to get my ID changed to the new address since all my mail is still going to my parents. And the lady at the DMV says I'm not showing up in their system for the new place. Turns out, my parents never actually put me on the lease or utility. They just left my name off everything. I'm technically not even a resident. I ask them about it and my mom says, "You don't live here, so why would you be on anything?" I tell her, "Fine, but you can't sell my stuff." She says, "If you wanted it, you should have stayed." I hang up. So I start thinking, okay, if they want to treat me like I never existed, I'm going to make myself a problem they can't ignore. I'm not talking illegal stuff, just inconvenient. I start by calling the school to get my transcripts sent somewhere else, and I make sure to update my emergency contact to a friend instead of my parents. I open a new bank account and move what little money I have out of the joint. One my mom still had access to. I change all my passwords, every account. I start making a list in my notes app of anything they could use to mess with me, and go down the list, closing stuff out. It's not revenge exactly, but it's something. One night, I'm scrolling through Bonnie's Insta and see a story where Rodney's talking about my dad owing him money for helping out with bills. He's bragging to someone about how my parents are over-leveraged on the mortgage because they upgraded before selling the old house, and how he's basically saving them from defaulting. I don't even know why he's bragging, but it's obvious he thinks he's running things now. I keep watching and see my brother in the background, counting out cash and making a joke about charging rent to anyone who wants to sleep in the garage. So now, I know they're hurting for money. I check my Credit Karma, hadn't done that in months, and see my name is still tied to some old bills. Not the mortgage, thank God, but some utilities at the old house. I realize if they don't pay, it hits my credit. I call my dad about it, and he just says, "That's what happens when you leave. You lose the perks." I tell him I'm not paying for their mess, and he hangs up. I file disputes for every account I can, which starts getting their mail flagged. I also start telling people from the old neighborhood not to forward anything to my parents' new address. My dad texts me once, threatening to come find me if I mess with their mail, so I block him. Meanwhile, Rodney starts deeming me, acting like we're cool, saying stuff like, "No hard feelings, bro, but you really should have stepped up sooner." I ignore him. Bonnie sends me a snap of her with my old hoodie saying, "Guess you don't need this anymore." I just screenshot it because why not? I get a random call from a neighbor at the old house, this lady who always complained about our trash cans. She says there's some official-looking mail for me, asks if I want it. I tell her to toss it. She says, "Your parents never even told me you moved." I say, "Yeah, that checks out." So I'm bouncing around, staying angry, not letting it go. I start making a plan, not just to survive, but to get even. I decide I'm not going to let them keep everything clean and tidy. I'm not talking about showing up and causing a scene, just making it so they can't ignore me. If they want to treat me like trash, I'll be the trash in their lives they can't get rid of. I start by making sure every account, every document, every single thing that could tie me to them gets pulled away. I call the utility companies about the old house and tell them to remove my name. When they ask why, I just say, "I don't live there and I'm not responsible." I get a letter saying my name's off. I know this is going to annoy the hell out of my dad because he hates paperwork. I start saving every petty message Bonnie sends, every time Randall tries to flex or Rodney acts like he's the king of the house. I keep receipts for everything. I'm not even sure what I'm going to do with it all yet, but I know I'm not letting any of this slide. The last straw for me is when my mom calls my friend's parents and tells them I'm causing problems at their house, trying to get them to kick me out. My friend comes up to me all awkward, says, "Look, man, my parents are kind of weird about this. Maybe you should find somewhere else for a bit." I pack my stuff and leave without saying anything. I text my mom, "You're not getting rid of me that easy." She leaves me on read. So that's where I'm at. I'm not even close to done. I know what everyone's going to say. Cut your losses, move on, be the bigger person. But why should I? I was literally thrown out like garbage for not fitting their mold, and they're still acting like they can just erase me. Nah, not happening. Update 2. Not gonna lie, I didn't think I'd get this far, but here we are. It's wild how people think they can just toss you out and then you'll just disappear, like you're some annoying pop-up on their phone. Nah, I'm not that guy. I said I wouldn't forget, and by 22, I was honestly just waiting for my shot. I wasn't living some dream life, but I got by. All the couch hopping, side hustles, all that crap. It made me stubborn as hell. And yeah, I still had receipts, literal and digital. So I get a text from Randall out of nowhere. This is like 4 years after everything went down. He acts like nothing happened, just throws out, "Hey, hope you're good. Can you spot me some cash for car insurance?" Like we're best buds. I stare at my phone for 5 minutes. This is the first time anyone in my family has actually needed something from me since I left. At first, I think this has to be a joke. But then I get another text, this time from Bonnie, super casual, asking if I can help with something adulting related. I ignore both. Then my mom starts hitting me up on Messenger, all formal, even calling me Dean, instead of the dumb nicknames she used when she was pissed. She says, "We'd love to reconnect. Maybe you could come by the house." I show the messages to a friend, and he says, "They must be desperate." I scroll through their profiles, and it's weird, like, Rodney is in fewer and fewer pics, and there's this vibe of everyone pretending things are fine, but you can tell it's forced. So now I'm curious. I start digging. Nothing sketchy, just regular internet stuff. Bonnie's posts are all memes about adulting is hard and rent is a scam. And then I notice she started selling stuff again. Same as before, but now it's her own things. I check the county site for the house info. Yeah, you can do this, it's public. And I see there's a lien on the property for unpaid HOA stuff. I'm not shocked. My parents always thought rules were for other people. I dig up some old docs I saved years back, and realize my name is still attached to an old utility bill. My dad never removed me, probably because he didn't want to deal with it, or maybe just to be petty. I call the company, say I don't live there. I want off the account, and they tell me the only way is with proof of new residence or a notarized letter. I get it sorted, but it takes a couple weeks. While that's happening, the bill goes unpaid and racks up late fees. I know for a fact my dad's going to get those calls now since his credit is on the line too. He hates dealing with customer service. I'm not even sorry. I start to think, why stop there? All those years they acted like I was dead weight because I didn't do things there. So now I'll make it so they feel every little thing they used to dump on me. I remember Rodney never actually signed a lease. He just moved in. My parents always did stuff under the table, thinking they were slick, treating the house like a private club. I Google the local rental laws and it turns out if you're taking money from someone living in your home, you need a written agreement or you're in violation. So I send an anonymous tip to the HOA that there's an unregistered tenant and weird parking stuff going on. Rodney and his buddies always parked on the grass and blocked the sidewalk. Classic. A couple of weeks go by and suddenly my brother is ranting on Twitter about HOA power trips and snitches. I just grab popcorn. Then I get a letter in the mail from the mortgage company. Apparently, when I got removed from the utility account, because my name was still tied to the old address, it flagged the mortgage as having occupancy inconsistencies. The bank wants my parents to verify all current residents and their arrangement. This is not some dramatic TV moment, more just endless paperwork and headaches for them, which is exactly what they deserve. My dad tries to call me. I don't pick up. He leaves a voicemail saying, "You're making this harder than it needs to be," and that if I don't stop causing problems, he'll take steps. I save the voicemail. I send a formal request to the mortgage company to remove my info from anything connected to their address. They tell me it'll take time, but I push it through. I know this is going to make their life hell because banks are slow and my parents hate answering questions. I start getting these weird messages from Randall, acting like he's looking out for me, but then slipping in stuff like, Mom and Dad are really struggling. Maybe you should help out since you know all the paperwork. I tell him, you guys made your choice. I'm not your secretary. He gets mad, sends a long text about how I'm being selfish and how family means helping out even when things are tough. I tell him, didn't seem to mean much when you locked my bike up and laughed in my face. Bonnie tries her own angle, sending me a guilt trip about how things have been hard since I left, how Rodney isn't who we thought he was. I say, sounds like a you problem. She blocks me, then unblocks me, then blocks me again. Classic Bonnie. Meanwhile, I hear from a neighbor, the one who used to complain about our trash cans, LOL, that the HOA is coming by every week now checking for violations. I guess Rodney tried to argue with the board and got told to leave the meeting. My dad is furious and starts sending me angry emails saying I'm ruining their life. I reply, you said you were done babysitting me, so why are you so pressed now? Then it gets really real. I get a call from the county office. They're looking to verify some old info about who lived at the house during a certain period, because there's a question about back taxes on the old place. I'm not on the hook, but my parents are, since they never updated the records. I send them a copy of the notice, just to be a jerk, and say, guess you should have kept those useless mouths around for the paperwork. My dad calls me screaming. I hang up. He calls back. I hang up again. I'm not even doing anything illegal, just making sure every time they try to slide something under the rug, it gets dragged back out. I'm tired of being the one who just takes it. They wanted to treat me like I was nothing, so I'm making sure they feel that nothing every single day. Rodney moves out, I hear, and Bonnie tries to move back home, but my parents are fighting with her too. Randall is still trying to play both sides, but I don't even answer him anymore. Honestly, I'm not going to pretend this made me rich or happy or whatever, but I finally feel like I'm the one making their life hell instead of the other way around. I'm not letting them off easy. I'm not forgiving anyone. I'm just here to make sure they don't forget what they did, not for a second. And then, just when I think I've done everything I can, my mom sends me this email that starts with, "We need to talk," and ends with, "Please, just come home." Like I'm suddenly the golden child again. I haven't even opened it. I'm not done yet. If you think this sounds petty, good. I waited 5 years for this. Next part, I'll tell you what happened when they actually showed up at my door. They thought they could just walk back into my life. Nah, not after all that. Final update. So this is it. The part nobody in my family ever thought would actually happen. I don't even know how to start. It's so weird. Like, for years I was basically a ghost to them, and now suddenly I'm the only thing they care about. I guess some people only show up when they think you have something they need. FR. So anyway, a couple weeks after that last round of chaos, like the mortgage company and the CEO OA stuff and all the calls I ignored, I get a text from a neighbor in my building saying, "Hey, there's a group of people downstairs asking for you. Kinda older, kinda loud." I think, nah, there's no way. But then I look out the window and yeah, there's my mom, my dad, Bonnie, Randall, all standing by the buzzer, looking like they just lost a bet. My mom's holding this folder full of papers. My dad has his arms crossed and is staring at the ground like he wants to punch a wall. Bonnie's scrolling her phone, and Randall's just pacing in circles. I let them ring the buzzer for a few minutes. Uncle, I was thinking of just letting them stand there, but I knew if I didn't go down, they'd probably just wait and make it awkward for everyone else. So I go down, but I don't let them up. We're in the lobby, and it's all echoey and weird, and they keep glancing at the security camera like they're about to get kicked out. My mom goes, "Can we talk, please? Just for a minute." And I say, "Depends what you want." My dad tries to jump in, but I cut him off. I say, "You said you were done babysitting me, remember?" He gets mad, says something about how I don't understand what family means, and I laugh. Because honestly, after 5 years of radio silence, I'm not buying it. Bonnie says, "Can we not do this here?" And I just shrug. I tell her, "I'm not inviting you up." Randall tries to play peacemaker, says, "Look, things got out of hand, but we're all struggling, you know?" I say, "I know, I can see that." He asks if I can help them sort out the paperwork mess. Something about the mortgage and the hoe and missing mail. My mom jumps in, says, "We need you, Dean. We need you to come home, please." I start laughing. Not like a movie villain laugh, just, I genuinely can't believe it's come to this. I ask, "What happened to Rodney?" Bonnie just looks away. Randall says, "He bailed, left the house a mess, took some of their stuff." My dad says, "We were wrong about him, okay? But we need your help now." I say, "You only care because you need something, not because you actually want me around." My dad goes, "That's not true, but he can't even look at me when he says it." My mom starts crying, says, "We made mistakes, everybody does, but you're our son." I say, "You called me useless. You said I was just a mouth to feed. Now you want me to fix your mess?" There's this weird silence. Bonnie finally says, "You're making this harder than it needs to be. Like it's my fault." I say, "Maybe you should have thought about that before you let them throw my stuff in the trash and turn my room into Rodney's man cave." Randall tries to put a hand on my shoulder. I push it off. I tell them, "I'll make it easy. I'm not coming back. I'm done being the backup plan. I'm not fixing your mess. I'm not signing anything. I'm not your scapegoat anymore." My dad slams his fist on the little table in the lobby. My mom grabs my arm. I shake her off and step back. She says, "If you don't help us, we could lose everything." And I just look at her and say, "You told me once not to come back unless I was ready to be an adult." Well, I grew up. Sorry if you couldn't keep up. She starts crying harder. Bonnie tries to guilt trip me, says, "You're punishing all of us for something that wasn't even your fault." I say, "You all made your choices. I'm making mine." Randall gets mad, says, "You're being a jerk, you always were," and I just laugh again and say, "At least I'm consistent." They stand there, all four of them, looking like they don't know what to do next. My mom says, "Please, just come home one more time. I promise we'll make it right." I say, "I'm not interested in promises. I'm interested in respect, which is something I never got from any of you." My dad mutters under his breath, calls me stubborn, and I just nod. I grab the door, open it, and tell them they should leave before someone calls security. My mom tries to hug me. I step aside and she almost falls into the door. Bonnie slams her fist into the wall and storms out. My dad just stands there, staring at me. Randall says, "Last chance, man." And I say, "No, this is your last chance. Don't come back." I shut the door. I go back up to my place. I hear them arguing in the parking lot, but I don't watch. I text a friend, "You're not going to believe who just showed up." He sends back, "Did you finally get your moment?" I say, "Yeah, but it wasn't what I thought it'd be." So yeah, that's how it ended. They wanted me to come back, fix everything, take the hit for their bad choices. I didn't. I'm not their safety net, not their lost cause, not their backup plan. I said I wouldn't forget, and I didn't. And now, neither will they. I know some people are going to say I should have forgiven them or whatever, but honestly, after 5 years of being treated like nothing, this was the only way it could go. I'm not sorry. Sometimes you have to show people you're not the doormat they think you are, even if it means shutting the door right in their face. That's it. Thanks if you read all this. I know it's a lot. I don't know what's next, but I know I'm not going back.